And then he goes, do you have a punk? And I'm like, what's a punk? and he dropped 3 minutes on CryptoPunks. I had to run because the family is something. And then that night started a 45 to 75 hour journey over a 1 week period where I consumed everything about CryptoPunks. And by mid-January, I decided that I was gonna buy a lot of them. You got your perspective. I just wanna be happy. Don't you wanna be happy?
But what was it about CryptoPunks that sort of made you want to be so obsessive that you just jumped in?
At that point, because of what I was already doing, I had felt we were close to the time. You know, my career, winelibrary.com in 96, so, you know, what I did in social in 05, 06, my career is what I'm doing right now with VR. I watch from very far away, and then when I think they're ready to jump in a year, in 2 years, in 18 months, in 9 months, when it's on the pre-dawn of the moment, that's when I jump. And I think that's what I'm good at.
So you felt December last year was the pre-dawn?
Yes, I felt that 2021 was gonna be a year.
And then you went all in?
All in.
I have never seen any technology so rapidly adopted.
There's a reason. There's money and greed involved. And that's a problem.
But don't you think that might be one.
That's why it's happening, Jody. But that's okay if we collectively understand it, right? We have to understand that there's amazing things going on here, but let there be no confusion. 90% of the people currently in our space are in the business of day trading NFTs to make a bag. And that's okay, but we have to understand it. It's also dangerous. We have to understand it. This happened with internet stocks in 95. This is what happens. There was something called gold. That's what we did. It was called the gold rush. Like, this happens in the macro. This is the most interesting technology shift since the internet decided to go social.
I think there's been pent-up demand, rather than necessarily greed, to actually own your own content. And it may be that your friends are the ones who are the day traders, but my friends... I think there's a broader community that actually wants to see something about themselves in their NFTs or collect.
100%. That's why it's going to be phenomenal. It's creative. It's bringing a lot of us back to a creative place that we gave up at 7, 9, 12, 13. There's incredible nirvana in this moment. What the energy I'm bringing is, let's not be hypocrites. I'm sitting at dinners and meetings and watching conversations and discords of, we're the anti-establishment, we're this, we're that, but then what they're really saying is, I'm gonna mint this and flip it. And so what we have to be collectively aware of is, if we don't go through this moment with eyes wide open, let me tell you how this always plays out when we don't go in with eyes wide open. It becomes oversaturated, it becomes the conversations around money. There's there's tons of conversation around art. There's even more conversation around the money. And money scares me because people make bad decisions.
Yeah, it scares me too.
And I'm watching. The thing I do for a living is I watch. You know, I talk a lot, so I confuse people, because it always seems like I'm talking because I talk a lot and I pump out a lot of content. But the reality is 90% of my day is watching. And I'm watching, and people are very clever, and some people are not clever, but it all is going around the same thing. This reminds me a lot of Web 2 on the great things. Take control of our own, all this stuff. You know, Web 2 started off very nirvana too. But let there be
But it didn't work out that way.
Of course it did. I love how everyone's like, social media is so bad. I'm like, you mean you liked the alternative of mainstream media? You mean the media communication infrastructure that led to the most fascism, dictatorship, and wars? Let's not get confused right now. I understand the current conversation is to razz social, but this concept that the media that used to be controlled by 49 people was so much better, I think we were a little bit lacking thoughtfulness to the conversation.
Well, let me put it differently though, which is, we have, as consumers, we have jumped on many trends. You know, microcomputers, Apple, various brands, mobile telephony, Nokia, BlackBerry, and then more recently social networks, Facebook, Twitter, Google. And every time as consumers we've jumped in with both feet, someone else has ended up controlling what we're doing. What I love about where we are now, apart from the money-making part, is that it's actually decentralized.
It's not decentralized.
I think it is.
No, it's really not. Let's talk about why. The technology's decentralized. Is anybody watching what's going on? The humans become the centralization.
But that moves. Because the centralization is moving, because the technology allows the centralization to move.
Until we take accountability for our own actions, we will blame platforms and people. Guys, gals, this is an important conversation. Everyone's like, this is awesome, it's decentralization. I spent 13 hours discovering an artist named Sarah in Texas that I like, and just literally say, oh, I like this art. And then I get 400 DMs saying, you're the centralization now, you Okay, then this thought, the biggest issue that leads to unhappiness and anxiety in society is the decision that somebody else controls you. Like, what are you gonna blame when it becomes decentralized? Other humans? Something else? Like, what are you gonna blame? Like, it's fascinating. Like, you were there. Social was competing against Rupert Murdoch and 2 other people, and read like 3 old white dudes that controlled all our thoughts. Social. Now it's like, this algorithm makes me a racist. You're a racist. Facebook made 0 people racist. Facebook exposed the racists. So I'm not confused what the current conversation is. I'm very happy that everyone's excited to blame Twitter and Facebook. And I'll be here in 10 years sitting here, and you'll be blaming centralization allowed humans to have too much control. Because they're blaming Elon, Jody.
Say again?
They're blaming Elon.
No,
Yes,
no one would blame Elon.
Of course they're blaming Elon. Pumped it up, pumped it down. Guys, you know what's decentralized? When you have enough self-esteem to think for yourself. That's decentralized. This is gonna play out very, very simply. It's going to become decentralized technology. There's gonna be, governments are gonna fight for centralization.
I don't know how, I think you've sort of manipulated the argument. I think where we were going was the value creation in social networks is centralized, and the value creation in the NFT space is decentralized.
It just wasn't. This thought that Facebook Inc. and Twitter and everybody else got all the value, what about the 8 trillion influencers that had no audience, that paid nothing to get attention in return and make millions and millions of dollars? What about that, Jody? Like, this thought that they kept all the economic, like, it's absurd. It's real. Like, this is.
Oh, you're talking about the influencers on social who make money out of having lots of followers.
You mean the people that paid nothing for the attention in a world where you pay for attention? Yes, I'm talking about that. It's a very important conversation.
It's a great conversation.
Right, because pre-social media, if you wanted attention, I did this for my dad's business. I had to pay $80,000 to a newspaper to get a full-page ad. Then I just made a YouTube video. Like, there's a trade there.
But don't you think one of the craziest things in the history of marketing is that CMOs of brands paid to have people follow their Facebook page, and then they paid Facebook
CMO of brands, of big companies, don't know what's going on in the reality of the current marketplace. I do this every day for a living.
I think the CMO brands now have an opportunity to have their own NFT marketplaces with their own fans.
As they should. And I can't wait for it.
But on their own platforms, not deep inside Facebook, where
Jody,
Facebook...
I can't wait. I'm here for it.
I love your work.
I love you too. Like, I'm here for it. But I think the energy I'm bringing this morning is, let's have 360 conversations. Like 360 conversations are healthy. Like pay attention to what's happening. Here's a good one in NFT land. The community's gonna drive it. Let's talk about that.
This is the community, by the way.
This is a great community.
Is the community.
Let's talk about what's happening in our space. Let's go into the details. Gary, this project, this porcupine with a clown nose, right? This project's gonna work not because of the founders, but because of the communities. So I sit and think about that, right? So, Jody, do you know how many Chicago Bulls fans there were in my New Jersey high school in 1992?
Say again. What?
How many? I know you're an Aussie. How many?
I'm not. I'm a New Yorker.
I know you're a New Yorker.
I told you I was a New Yorker.
You're for 40 seconds. Jody, listen. How many Chicago Bulls fans were in my New Jersey high school in 1992?
Tell me.
Half the school.
Wow.
Because Michael Jordan was doing his thing and everybody in the community was wearing Bulls swag. How many Bulls fans are in my high school in New Jersey right now, Jody? Zero. The community is all for it because their money's tied up in it. But if the founders of the project can't navigate it to success, the fans aren't gonna show up to the stadium. We have to be very thoughtful about this. There's just a lot of things happen. Listen, Jody, you were there in 05, 06, 07 when I was coming up.
Yeah, we both joined Twitter the same.
That's right.
month, yeah.
You recall like that there was all those combos, and I think the reason I get to be here today is because I've navigated those 15 years a specific way. And for me, when I my obligation when I do an interview like this is I'm gonna give everybody here my best stuff. They're gonna do whatever they can do with it. I could be wrong. I've been wrong before. I could be right. But what I'm watching is what I saw in 06 and 07, which is the conversation's one-dimensional. And if you peel the layer off, an unfortunate amount of it is really about short-term economics. And I think that for us to achieve what we all probably subconsciously and consciously want, we need to level up the convo of what's happening here. And there's a lot happening here and a lot of good. But we also have to watch out for some of the things that are brewing.
So just zooming out to 35,000 feet, what industries do you think are going to be disrupted by NFTs over the next 12 months?
Over the next 12 months, I mean, to be frank, I don't really think about it in that terms. I'll tell you why. If you asked me that question in 1995 about the internet, I wouldn't have known that Jeff Bezos' talent was going to be deployed against bookstores. I wouldn't have known that, right? I wouldn't have known that some guy whose wife was a Pez collector was going to build eBay. But I knew in 1995, if I was sitting here as a 20-year-old, I would have said all of them. And that's what I felt about social, and that's what I know is happening right here, right now. Every business is gonna be affected by what we're talking about right now. I just don't know what gal in Tennessee has an idea right now and is gonna start something that's gonna go after this, or what person in Harlem is gonna go after transportation. But what I can tell you is there won't be an industry not addressed, affected, changed, impacted by the infrastructure of decentralized servers with a platform, whether it's Sol or Cardano or ETH, with apps being built on top of it at scale. It's gonna change the world, and it's gonna change in a big way.
Well, I'd like to say thank you to you on behalf of the community, because many people say to me from outside this community, why have NFTs been so successful? And I say three things to them. One of the smartest marketing programs, campaigns I've ever seen, for $69 million, everyone in the world was talking about the sale of the Beeple artwork.
Correct.
That was amazing.
That's one. Moment.
That's one. People staying at home using Clubhouse, because Clubhouse was, and not in this order, by the way, and then the last thing is you, because you have done so much for this community in being so passionate about it. So big thank you.
It's very nice. everybody, it's really why I want to talk. You know, it's funny, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a businessman. I want to go to a garage sale and buy something for $1 for $5. It doesn't mean I don't understand what's happening in the macro that I want everybody to be more thoughtful about. And more importantly, the thing we have to watch out for is the hypocrisy. Like, if the bigger danger is the way we're talking about it, but then really it's about, can I flip this for 5X, right? Like, we have to be very conscious about this, because here's what's likely going to happen if we stay this way. If we stay this way, then what's going to really happen is we're going to have a massive crash, because there's too much supply, demand won't catch up, people are moving around communities. I'm incredibly worried about people betting money they can't afford. You know, if you look at Wall Street, when people bet money they can't afford and they lose it all, it leads to suicide. Is our space ready for somebody to commit suicide because they got a rug pull? Right? Like, there's a lot here.
See, I'm really surprised how much you're focusing on the flipping part, because I see so many people in the broader community who, you know, they want to have a CryptoPunk because they might think it looks like them or their wife or someone. In fact, we have someone talking later today about that. And it's tribal. It's tribal. I don't think it's just about the flipping.
Listen, I appreciate that. And you know, what I'm trying to do here in the limited time is bring a conversation to the forefront that I think could add, because I'm buying everything that I think we're all buying, right? There's so much, you know, there's so much excitement. I don't think that many people are buying a $500,000 CryptoPunk because it looks like them.
Well, wait till you hear who said that. Wait till you hear there's someone talking today about why they did that.
But I mean, do you know what I mean? Like, I think people...
Well, but CryptoPunk was a placeholder for art, you know, and for things, for collections.
Look, this has been the greatest thing that has happened to the independent artist in a long time, and I'm here for it because I love all of you.
Amen. Amen.
1. 2, there is just the thing I loved about 06 to 09, the friendships that you're all about to make with each other. Like, please, 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 whenever there's, I don't know what the programming looks like here, but if you go out for a few minutes, please, some people are more introverted, I get that. But for people that are a little bit more introverted, things of nature, this is exactly the community at this moment where everybody is as excited for you to come and say hello to them as they are to you. This is literally your best friend, your business partner, somebody you might marry is literally sitting in here right now. And I know this because I saw it in the last 2 waves. Please push yourself to say hello to a stranger when you guys have breaks. Please.
Totally.